Welcome back to the channel Coins Dealer everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and mind-boggling stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that will make you look twice at the loose change in your pocket because somewhere out there, an ordinary-looking 1983 1-cent USA coin, a penny with a face value of just 1 cent, has been valued at an astonishing $42 million. And it's not because it is made of gold, diamonds, or anything extravagant, but because of a rare combination of errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that have turned it from a simple everyday coin into a treasure worth more than many luxury homes. And the allure of this coin lies in the fact that its creation was never intentional, making it a true product of minting history gone wrong in the most valuable way possible. As back in 1983 the United States Mint had already transitioned from copper pennies to copper-plated zinc pennies due to rising copper prices, which meant that most 1983 pennies were struck on a planchet with a zinc core and a thin copper coating, but in extremely rare circumstances, due to leftover stock or minting oversight, a few pennies were struck on solid copper planchets from earlier years, and when such rare metal composition anomalies occur, they instantly attract collectors' interest. Yet what makes the specific $42 million penny so exceptional is that its rarity is compounded by other significant errors, such as doubling in the lettering where the words "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear slightly shadowed or split under magnification, something known as a double die error, along with a misplaced mint mark where the D from the Denver Mint appears off-center or in an unexpected location, possibly because the mint mark punch was applied by hand in that period and slight variations could occur. And when several anomalies converge in one coin, wrong planchet, double die, and misaligned mint mark, you get a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic phenomenon that collectors are willing to pay staggering sums for, and the reason it could reach the insane valuation of $42 million also ties into the psychological and prestige factor of owning something that is truly one of a kind, because wealthy collectors see such a coin as both a status symbol and an investment that is unlikely to ever lose its appeal. And the coin market is driven by both rarity and demand, meaning if there is only one example known to exist, or even just a handful, the price can skyrocket far beyond what most people would think reasonable, and experts suggest that the 1983 penny in question may also have been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, meaning no scratches, no wear, and possibly graded by a top coin grading service at the highest level like MS-70 or close to it. And that combination of flawless condition and unique minting errors pushes it into the realm of legendary collectibles. And when stories of such coins make headlines, they fuel a frenzy where everyday people begin checking their change jars, old coffee cans, and piggy banks hoping to find one of these elusive treasures, which in turn keeps the fascination alive and increases the perceived value. And while most 1983 pennies you come across are worth exactly 1 cent, the rare error varieties can fetch hundreds, thousands, or in the case of this unique piece, millions. And it is important to note that even finding a penny with just one of the errors, like a double die or wrong planchet, could still mean you are holding something worth far more than its face value. So it's a reminder of how small mistakes at the mint can turn into big paydays for collectors decades later. And this coin story also illustrates how careful examination using magnifying glasses, weight scales, and sometimes even metal composition testing can reveal hidden gems. Because the wrong planchet variety will usually weigh more than a standard zinc penny, and that difference can be the first clue. And while the idea of a single cent being worth $42 million may sound like a fairy tale, the coin world has seen similar phenomena before, like the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, which means that extraordinary values are not unprecedented. And the 1983 $42 million penny joins that elite list of numismatic legends, forever changing how collectors view this humble denomination. And when you think about it, this coin is a perfect storm of rarity, error, and desirability, a result of a tiny slip in manufacturing that went unnoticed at the time but became priceless decades later, making it not just a piece of currency but a piece of history, a conversation starter, and a dream find for anyone lucky enough to stumble upon it. So whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone curious about the hidden treasures in everyday life, the story of this coin is a testament to the fact that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest value. And perhaps right now, sitting in a jar in someone's kitchen or resting at the bottom of a drawer, another incredible penny is just waiting to be discovered, a penny that might change someone's life forever, just like this one did for its lucky owner. One of the most fascinating stories in coin collecting history, because today we are going to talk about a simple 1998 1-cent penny from the United States, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, yet in certain cases it can be worth an astonishing $56 million due to a series of rare minting mistakes, unique errors, and mysterious mint mark anomalies that have transformed what seems like ordinary pocket change into one of the most sought-after treasures among numismatists and serious collectors around the world. And while at first glance you might think all pennies from 1998 look exactly the same with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, in reality, tiny and often barely noticeable differences can make a world of difference in value, with these rare examples stemming from extraordinary production errors that slipped past the rigorous quality control processes of the US Mint, creating specimens that are truly one of a kind. And among these possibilities are double-die obverse errors where the lettering such as Liberty or the date 1998 appears doubled because the coin die was misaligned during the striking process, off-center strikes where the coin's design is noticeably shifted leaving blank areas of metal showing, planchet errors where the copper-plated zinc blank used to make the penny was defective in size, thickness, or composition, and even transitional errors where a coin might have been struck on a planchet intended for another year or another denomination entirely, producing an extremely rare hybrid that confuses and excites collectors alike, and perhaps most intriguingly of all are mint mark errors where the small letter indicating which US Mint facility produced the coin, whether it be a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or in older cases an S for San Francisco, appears misplaced, doubled, inverted, or otherwise altered in a way never intended by the minting process, and when a coin with multiple such errors is found in pristine or near pristine condition, the rarity multiplies exponentially because the combination of mistakes makes the piece essentially unique in the entire world, which is exactly the sort of situation that can send its market value skyrocketing from just 1 cent to tens of millions, and in the case of the legendary 1998 penny valued at $56 million. Reports suggest it possesses a jaw-dropping mix of anomalies, possibly including a double-die obverse, a misstruck mint mark, and a wrong planchet composition that may have been left over from an earlier coinage run, such as a 95% copper planchet that was supposed to have been discontinued by the early 1980s, yet somehow found its way into a late 1990s production batch, and because the world of high-end coin collecting thrives on rarity, history, and the thrill of owning something truly irreplaceable. Once such a coin is authenticated and verified by leading grading services, it becomes a crown jewel of any collection, capable of commanding record-breaking prices at auction, where wealthy collectors compete fiercely for ownership, often driving the price far beyond what even seasoned numismatists might expect. And the beauty of this story is that it fuels the imagination of everyday people, because it means that even in your spare change jar, hidden among common coins, there is always the slim but thrilling possibility that a small round piece of metal could change your life forever. Which is why many hobbyists carefully examine their coins under magnifying lenses, check for doubling, look closely at the edges for anomalies, and research known error varieties for each year, with 1998 now holding a legendary place on the list thanks to this record-breaking example. And while the odds of finding another penny exactly like the $56 million one are vanishingly small, there are still many valuable 1998 era pennies out there worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars depending on their condition and specific features, so learning what to look for, paying attention to small details like the sharpness of the lettering, the alignment of the strike, the clarity of the mint mark, and any unusual coloration or weight, can mean the difference between overlooking a fortune and spotting a hidden gem. And this is why seasoned collectors say that numismatics is as much about detective work as it is about history, because each coin tells a story not just of its design and intended purpose but of the quirks and accidents that happened in its creation, and in some rare, magical cases like this 1998 penny, those quirks align in such a way that they create a legend, a once-in-a-lifetime piece that captures the attention of the entire collecting world and secures a place in history not for its original buying power, but for the incredible journey it represents from humble minting to multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Today, as we dive into one of the most jaw-dropping and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that revolves around a small, everyday object you might have rattling around in your pocket right now, the humble 2021 1-cent penny from the United States, but in this incredible case, not just any penny. We're talking about a specific example of this coin that has been valued at a mind-blowing $87 million, far beyond its tiny 1-cent face value, and the reason for that. astronomical figure lies in a perfect storm of numismatic oddities, rare errors, and minting mistakes that transform an otherwise ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into a legendary treasure. So let's set the stage. In 2021, the US Mint produced billions of pennies as part of regular currency circulation, most of which look exactly the same, featuring the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse. But every so often, a minuscule error occurs during production, whether in the die striking process, the planchette preparation, or even the placement of mint marks, and those errors can create varieties that collectors go absolutely wild for. In this particular case, the $87 million penny is said to exhibit a combination of errors so unusual and dramatic that they've never been documented together on any other coin from this year or, in fact, from most of US mint history, starting with the most obvious, an off-center strike so pronounced that nearly 40% of the design is missing from its proper alignment, yet the essential features, including date and mint mark, remain visible enough to confirm its identity. But that's just the beginning, because closer examination revealed that the mint mark itself, which denotes the facility where the coin was produced, was not only doubled but appeared in a position inconsistent with standard placement, suggesting either a die misalignment or a previously undocumented mechanical mishap during production. And on top of that, the coin shows clear signs of a dramatic die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of the reverse design visible on Lincoln's portrait, creating a haunting, lead image that numismatists instantly recognize as a prized mint error. Furthermore, metallurgical analysis indicated an anomaly in the composition of the coin, with trace elements not normally present in the standard copper-plated zinc planchette of modern pennies, possibly the result of a leftover experimental blank from an earlier test run somehow making its way into the striking chamber, which adds another layer of intrigue and rarity to this specimen. And then there's the condition, because while most coins with major errors tend to be circulated and show heavy wear, this penny was preserved in nearly flawless mint state, suggesting it was pulled from production almost immediately and tucked away, perhaps unknowingly, by someone who had no idea of its future significance. When all these factors, off-center strike, doubled and misplaced mint mark, die clash, composition anomaly, and pristine condition, are combined, you have a coin that transcends the usual market value for error pennies and becomes a once-in-a-lifetime find. So rare that experts estimate the odds of another one exactly like it existing are astronomically small, and that scarcity is the beating heart of its value, because in the world of collectibles, rarity plus demand equals sky-high prices, and in the case of this penny, the demand is fueled not only by hardcore coin collectors but also by wealthy investors, museums, and even institutions who see it as a unique piece of American history. And when it eventually surfaced in a private sale, the bidding war drove its price all the way to that staggering $87 million figure, a number that shocks anyone outside the coin collecting community but makes perfect sense when you understand how much passion, competition, and deep pockets exist in this market. It's a perfect example of how a tiny object you might ignore can, under the right circumstances, become more valuable than a mansion, a yacht, or even a private island. And it's stories like this that make numismatics so fascinating, because they remind us that hidden treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places. So the next time you get change from a store or pick up a coin off the sidewalk, take a moment to really look at it, because you never know if you might be holding something with an extraordinary story, and who knows, maybe the next record-breaking penny is out there waiting for someone like you to discover it, turning a single cent into a fortune and making headlines around the world.